typically on a Friday we'll start, with the Eagles. But obviously they're not till Monday, so we'll dive more into that game on Monday's show, Casey. But let's talk a little bit more about last night's game, because you have a situation where that Dallas team, I don't know about you, but they had the formula last night. Put pressure up the middle, run the ball. I thought they played really good defense. Dallas last night looked like they're at least in the conversation in the NFC.
On defense, when you can do two things, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, in other words, be in the position you're supposed to be in the coverage area you're supposed to be in, stay where you're supposed to be, and you'll tackle well and you'll hit hard. If you can do those three things on defense, you're going to be able to hold up against, I don't want to say hold any offense like the Saints to 10 points like they did yesterday, but you're going to be able to stay in the conversation, because a lot of the problems that people have been having this year on defense is they're not doing one of those three things, or sometimes not all three of those things are missing. So I think Dallas is showing that defense isn't dead in the NFL.
That's for sure. They played great defense. Van Der Esch and Smith, that linebacking's not dead in the NFL either. That's an area where people just overlook that all of a sudden, you know?
They do, and the thing is, again, but they had people who can stay up with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, 5 for 40 yesterday, I believe it was. I know fantasy managers were just pulling their hair out about him. He did terrible. I almost say he did a terrible job, because it was more Awuzie was covering him. In fact, they were switching a lot of different people to cover him. They were doing a lot of different things to say, we're going to make sure that you're not going to beat us. You may catch a few passes, but Byron Jones could keep up with him. Awuzie could keep up with him. I even would trust Anthony Brown to hold him in check, if nothing else. But I mean, the Cowboys have a deep cornerback core, and a lot of teams don't have that, especially right now. So it's one of those things, if they keep healthy like that and they get in the playoffs and they face one of these powerful offenses, they've got a group that can slow them down.
And then they run the ball. I mean, and I like the way. I mean, look, some people criticize them for the Cooper trade because they gave up a first-round pick. They've done a good job of incorporating him into their offense, and he's added something.
They needed to add, if nothing else, maybe it was a situation where you knew, you have to overpay for him, because they knew they needed it, because obviously beyond him, they don't have anything in their passing game. I mean, nobody else in their passing game to speak of. And to be able to run the ball well against the Saints defense that has been pretty good against the run this year, although having said that, if you look at the Saints' metrics, early in the year they had really strong rush defense metrics, but over the past 5 games prior to this game, because I haven't graded it yet, but the previous 4 or 5 games coming into that contest, New Orleans ranked 25th in my good blocking rate metric allowed, which means they're allowing good blocking rate at 53% of the time. That's really bad. So I think the Saints' run defense may not be as strong as it was earlier this year, and that's another weakness for that team.
Bad night for the Saints, or did they get exposed in an area that other teams were going to start to feast on?
I think run defense-wise, I think teams can expose them. For Dallas's pass coverage and their pass rush, I think most teams can't do that because they don't have the personnel in the secondary that Dallas does. But it does show that New Orleans needs to come up with a plan B, because last night their plan A didn't work, and they obviously didn't have a plan B. And the funny thing is, if you're the Saints and the Cowboys want to get into one of those power football games, if that's what they end up getting into, the Saints have the kind of team that should be able to stay up with that. Sans the run defense, but they only give up 13 points. It's not like their defense did bad yesterday, but they should be able to do that. I don't think they were prepared to, though, and they need to be able to prepare for that sort of thing if in case it comes up again.
Not the best night for Breeze either, and I thought they got some good pressure up the middle that kind of threw him off the mark.
It does show if you get pressure on him, he does not handle the pressure very well. I think that's part of why the Saints, coming into the season, based on what you saw last year, it was clear they didn't want to be a pass-first team. And I think that's part of it, is that Breeze is feeling the pressure a little bit more than he used to in the past. And early this year, they had situations where they had to get into a pass-first situation, and they had a couple of matchup situations where they just didn't have any choice. You're facing Tampa, you're going to throw the ball deep because Tampa is a terrible secondary. But I think that they got the Saints maybe out of what they expected to do coming into the year, but this may be a wake-up call for them that you need to get back to that 1-2 approach. You've got Kamara, you've got Ingram, you've got a great run-blocking offensive line. Get back to that approach and throw when you need to, because you still have a great quarterback, but you don't want to get pressure on him, because he keeps getting pressure and he keeps getting hits like that. He's going to keep playing like he did yesterday.
All right, let's look at the Week 13 schedule with KC Joyner here as we break it all down. Sixers tonight at 7. They will be on 97.3 ESPN. Eagles on Monday night. We'll have that game for you as well. We will dive deeper into that game on Monday's show, but let's take a look at what we got coming up. All right, Baltimore goes to Atlanta. Atlanta, their season seemingly is lost, but Baltimore with Lamar Jackson has kind of refound their season, but they're going on the road here. But is this a good spot for them for Jackson against this defense?
This is not a good spot for them. Baltimore ranks 32nd in pass rush pressure over the past 5 weeks. They are not getting pressure on the passer. It's not a good place for them to be going against an Atlanta offense that can go vertical. And by the way, Baltimore's also banged up in their backfield. Gus Edwards, their new lead back, he's questionable and a legit questionable for this game. So is Alex Collins. They may be starting some backup running backs there. They may end up having third-string running back going. So I think Baltimore's going to have some problems, and I've actually picked Atlanta to win that game. Kind of an upset.
Interesting. All right, Denver's won 2 straight against 2 good teams. Cincinnati's got all sorts of problems. Jeff Driscoll under center at home, Cincinnati. But can Denver make it 3 in a row?
Cincinnati's got all kinds of problems. Their run defense metrics are terrible. I've got them, I do the red, yellow, green rankings for cornerbacks and safeties. They've got 3 players with a green rating in their secondary, and I could have even made it more than that. I think they've got, with all those defensive problems, you've got Driscoll at quarterback, and you've got A.J. Green. It looks like he's going to play, but he's legit questionable, so he might be slowed. You've got to add all those things together. I just think Denver's going to win this game pretty clear.
Rams, they need this game. Now they're back in the number 1 seed mix at Detroit. Do you see a shot for the Rams to slip up in Detroit?
I think they've got a problem in that their run defense is terrible in Detroit, although Detroit is going to be missing Kerryon Johnson. They're going to have to go with LeGarrette Blount, so that's a problem for them. Detroit's going to be able to move the ball on the ground, but the Rams do get Talib back this week, and the Rams still have so many weapons in the air, and I don't think that Detroit can maybe slow down Brandon Cooks with Darius Slay, but the rest of their secondary is going to have huge problems against Woods and Reynolds, so I think Rams come back and show who they are again.
Arizona, double-digit underdog at Green Bay. Packers need the game if they want to have any playoff hopes here.
Yeah, Packers, I saw the listing on their Twitter feed of all the things that need to happen. There's 5 different teams that have to lose at least 2 or 3 games. It's just the percentages are incredibly low. Arizona's actually playing fairly well in a number of places, but I just can't see. I think that Aaron Rodgers is still going to be able to make that offense go, even with the receiving core that he has. And Jimmy Graham's got the broken thumb, and you got problems with MVS. They've got some injury issues, but I'll take Aaron Rodgers over Josh Rosen 7 days a week.
So you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Buffalo at Miami. Miami's kind of still in this thing. 5-6 in the AFC and the NFC for that matter. Keeps you in the wild card mix. But they've lost 2 in a row. Buffalo, seemingly, they've won 2 in a row. Can Buffalo go on the road and win 3? McDermott might be coach of the year with this team.
He might be. And Miami has a terrible run defense. They've got some terrible run defense metrics for the past 5 weeks, some of the worst in the league. Xavier Howard is really good, but it doesn't really help them because Buffalo doesn't have anybody in the passing game anyway, so it doesn't matter who he shuts down. He's not taking anybody big out of their game. I think that Buffalo still only has a 2-in-10 chance. Allen can maybe run for some yards to get some things done, but Miami still has so much more in their offense than Buffalo does in their offense, and I think that gives Miami the edge.
All right, let's look at Chicago. Big one for them, 8-3. They're still in play, outside looking in, but they're still in play for a top 3 seed here. The 3 seed now, I guess top 2 seed. If they can win out here, they might be in the top 2 spot. They can't lose at New York to this Giants team, can they?
I wouldn't think so. The blocking matchup isn't quite as favorable as you think, though. The Giants are not good in their front 7 grades over the past 5 weeks, but Chicago only ranks 11th in the grades over the past 5 weeks. The run blocking has not been that strong. It's been, in fact, they ranked 22nd in my run blocking grades over the past 5 weeks. So Chicago is more of a pass offense and defense, strong defense formula, which is not what you'd think they would be. But against the Giants, that's going to be more than enough.
Carolina, don't know what happened to them last week, but they've been really struggling, to the point where, we thought they were the clear wild card team. They've lost 3 in a row. Tampa, always dangerous offensively at home. Carolina lose 4 straight here?
I have when I'm doing the blocking metrics and the run defense metrics, I always look at them as for leading indicators as to where a team is going to be going. And Carolina ranks in the top 5 on both sides of the ball. Even though they've not been winning, they have been playing well in blocking and in defense. And Tampa Bay could be missing. They could be down. Grimes might be out, and if he's out, they're already missing 2 other cornerbacks. They could be starting 4th, 5th, actually 5th, 6th, and 7th string starting cornerbacks. And if you put 4 out there, you could be down to an 8th-string cornerback. They also could be missing their starting free safety. I mean, their starting strong safety is already out, so they've so weak in the secondary. I think Carolina's going to be able to throw the ball a ton and just be able to overcome whatever Tampa can do on offense.
KC Joyner is with us here, looking at Week 13. Indy, this is a team that's fun. Jacksonville, they were the fun team last year. They've been a mess. Can Indy, though, do you see a spot where they slip up on the road here? I mean, I know going to the road late in the season, but Jacksonville 3-8, Indianapolis 6-5. They've won 5 in a row. Do they overlook this Jags team that's lost 7 straight?
I don't think they do, because they've had problems with the Jags in the past, and I think they like the idea that the Jags have been the team in the division, or were last year, and that, we can't beat them and such. The Jags think they can come out there and just bully them. I think Indianapolis will be plenty motivated. One thing that's underrated for Indianapolis, we talk about how great their blocking is, and it's been fantastic for a while now. Their front 7, their run defense metrics of the past 5 weeks, number 1 in the league in good blocking rate allowed, number 4 in my good blocking productivity metric, number 4 in yards per carry before first defensive contact. I mean, they're doing very well against the run, and when you've got Fournette out, I think that's a bad format for Jacksonville.
Cleveland's at Houston. Cleveland's interesting all of a sudden. I mean, they're fun to watch, 4-6-1. I mean, outside shot at the playoffs. They've won 2 in a row. Houston's played really well. They've won, 8 in a row, I think it is. They're the head of the South. But this game is very interesting, Watson and Mayfield.
It is. It's going to take Mayfield making a bunch of plays in the passing game, because Cleveland ranks 32nd in good blocking rate metrics of the past 5 weeks, only giving good blocking to their ball carriers on 31.1% of carries. It's nowhere near enough. I think that's going to make them too one-dimensional against the Houston pass rush that's really strong. So Cleveland's going to make some plays. I think Houston makes more.
All right, not a great schedule this week. New York takes on Tennessee. Tennessee obviously needs this game. They're in the thick of this race in the South. They're in the maybe they're 3 games back out of Houston, but they're still in that wild card at 5-6. They've been so Jekyll and Hyde, but the Jets could be just what the doctor ordered. They've lost 5 straight.
Jets should be what the doctor ordered. They're probably going to have McCown this week. It looks like Darnold's going to be out again, and the Jets just have all kinds of problems in their secondary. Tennessee wants to be able to run the football. Claiborne's struggling. Tremaine Johnson, I don't think, has played that well this year. Jets could also be missing Marcus May, their free safety. So I think Tennessee, who's doing fantastic with Corey Davis of late, fantasy managers are really happy with them. I think that they're going to be able to get enough passing game going along with that ground game. The Jets just won't have enough offense.
Kansas City at Oakland. I mean, just a mess with the Raiders here. I mean, they've been awful. But at home, the Chiefs coming off a bye, though, and Mahomes and company keep rolling.
I mentioned those green rated metrics. Oakland, you look at their metrics across the board. Almost everywhere on their defense, they've got green ratings, which means, they've got 4 out of 5 in their secondary are green rated. I could even rank their nickel cornerback, a guy named Nick Nelson, who's a 3rd-string nickel cornerback. I could rate him as a green rated cornerback. They're green rated against the run. Their defense is arguably the one of the worst I've seen in 15 years of covering football, covering the NFL. So Kansas City big.
And by the way, we will note Dan Graziano tweeting the Chiefs have sent home Kareem Hunt. Not much to get into there. There was a video that came out. Don't know how it will affect him, but he might be out for the game with Kansas City at Oakland. Minnesota at New England. Minnesota in the thick. They're the first wild card team in the NFC right now. And New England just doesn't feel like, I guess because Gronk isn't really there, and they don't have that New England feel. But can Minnesota go to New England and win this?
I'll be interested to see what kind of game plan New England calls for. They don't have a vertical passing game. They haven't had one since they let Cooks go, and Gronk is too banged up, so they've got nobody who can go deep. Gordon's okay, but he's not what he used to be. Minnesota can stop in the vertical passing game. They've got plenty of cornerbacks. They're good there. And Minnesota ranks 31st in good blocking rate allowed. So New England should run the ball a ton. I don't know if they may want to do that, and they may decide to go with that route, but that might be playing into Minnesota's hands. And plus, Minnesota can go vertical. They've got the receivers to do so, especially if Diggs does play. So if Diggs plays, I think they get a 4 in 10 chance of winning that game, maybe 50-50 chance, even though it's on the road. I'm picking New England, but I won't be surprised at all if Minnesota wins that contest.
San Francisco at Seattle. Obviously, the Niners are a mess, but Seattle's in the thick of this playoff mix all of a sudden, man.
They are, and they're doing it very well with, despite having terrible run defense right now. They're 29th in my run blocking grades or run defense grades over the past 5 weeks, so that's going to be a weakness for them. But in San Francisco's got Breida. I just don't think it's going to be enough for them because Seattle's got too much left on offense on their side of the ball, and they're blocking exceptionally well. Seattle was terrible coming into the season, and early in the season they were terrible at it. Their run blocking grades have been great of late, so I like Seattle.
Chargers at Pittsburgh. These two teams have both lost to Denver the last couple of weeks. Now they play each other, but seeding on the line here. Pittsburgh, it looks like they're ahead in the North firmly. The Chargers look to be a wild card team, but this is a big game for both these teams.
It is, and the Chargers, this is going to be, I think, a lower scoring game than generally expected because the Chargers' defense is played very well in a number of areas. Their pass rushing has been really good. They got Bosa back, and they're covering very well. The Chargers have done a very good run defense, but Pittsburgh's run blocking metrics have been terrible of late. And Pittsburgh's pass blocking metrics have been great. So it's going to be strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness, and I think it's going to make for a lower scoring game than people think. But being at home, I'll give Pittsburgh the edge.
Monday, we'll talk a lot more about the Eagles and Washington. Give me initial thought when you look at this matchup, just something that kind of sticks out when you say, all right, Washington's going to Philly for Monday night.
I'm really interested in Josh Doxson. They're integrating him back in the offense, and if Philadelphia has issues in their secondary, they're going to have to figure a way to stop him because if he is on his game, and he has been of late, if he's on his game and they're trying to cover him with a 4th, 5th, and 6th string cornerbacks, it's going to be a long night for them. So they got to find a plan to stop him.
We will break down that game in detail on Monday. We'll get you the matchups to watch, where Philly has an advantage, where Washington has an advantage. I'll tell you one, okay, off the bat. The two guards from Washington stink, and Fletcher Cox should have his way inside in the middle there. That would be one from my untrained eye.
I would agree, but Washington has played well as a group in run blocking of late. So that's one of the things is they're finding a way to coordinate as a group to make up for some of their personnel weaknesses. But it's one thing to do it as a group when you face weak players. If you're facing Fletcher Cox, it's probably a different story.
All right, more on that game on Monday's show. The Week 13 slate, we will have the Bears and Giants on Sunday, plus the Sunday Night Football game. And, of course, our coverage of Eagles and Redskins begins right here on the Sports Bash, 2 o'clock Monday. Countdown to kickoff at 6. Eagles, Redskins. The season really weighs in the balance Monday night. Casey, enjoy all the college championship games on Saturday, the NFL on Sunday, pal.
Should be a fun weekend.